a third member instead of long-haired Mark. We have Matt Din. So this is Andrew's brother, huge Leaf fan. The only time we've met each other was actually at a Leaf game in Ottawa. Is that right?
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we were sitting in different areas of the rink,
different sections.
So start us off just introducing yourself a little bit and how you became such a big Leaf fan.
Well, I'm Matt. Unfortunately, I am Andrew's brother. No, but grew up Leaf fans, from our dad, and just loved going to games when we could, loved watching them, and had a lot of fun, just watching games, going to games, talking about the Leafs, whining about the Leafs, and
a lot of whining.
Who does more whining between the two of you?
Well, he swears more than I do.
I'm probably more consistent. I think his intensity gets higher than mine.
I get more frustrated when bad things happen, but I've learned to internalize it a lot because I'm just so used to it by now, I guess. But like when they lose in the playoffs, I think I handle it worse than he does.
Oh, 100%.
I don't take it good.
Actually, no, but then again, I'm the one who, like, every single time we lose Game 7, and I can just say every time we lose Game 7 because it's every fucking time.
Every what time?
But I end up calling Matt, and we talk for like 3 hours. Every time. We talked for like 3 hours.
It's good therapy.
Yeah. Therapy. I remember we did the one when we were facing Columbus, and we called when, what was it, 5-2?
Yeah.
You got up to, and I called him, and then he's like, I was driving. I'm like, I'm not watching it. He's like, it's 5-3.
Well,
I was calling both of you. Okay. I was calling both of you back to back.
Yeah, and we're just like, we've had the same conversation for the last 5-6 years now. It just never changes. It's the same thing over and over again.
And eventually, it starts like you literally start getting like deja vu. Yeah. Like, which is terrible, right?
Well, no, because every time they go down Game 7 now, it's just like you have no faith that it's going to go.
Well, no, every time they walk into Game 7.
Yeah, beforehand. Like Matt, did you think we were winning Game 7?
No, as soon as
no chance
against Montreal. As soon as the lost Game 5, I knew the series was over. I was like, this is done. Like they're going to lose Game 6. And
it wasn't that.
As soon as lost Game 5 in OT,
no.
It was like,
it wasn't that bad. I remember tweeting out. Maybe this is like a facade I was putting on, but I remember I was tweeting out basically like, all right, we're going to beat them 5-1. Screw this team. This team's terrible. Who cares? It's still the Canadiens. And then once they lost Game 6, it took me, I guess, what's the runtime of a game? Like 2 hours and 52 minutes. It took me 2 hours and 52 minutes to be like, this team sucks. Trade Marner.
Okay.
Which is basically at the end of it.
For the record, I don't hate Marner as much as Andrew does. So let's just get that out there.
I also just want to, for the record, everyone, even Din doesn't hate Mitch Marner. We do need someone on the podcast, though, that is going to push back on Mitch Marner just to make it interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
One Din loves him, one of them hates him. Right?
You don't hate him, though.
I expect more out of him. That's all. Yeah. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Look, he signed a contract which set certain expectations for him, right? Like you can't just sign that contract and say, be okay with mediocrity. He has to perform at a certain level.
Yeah.
Well, not even mediocrity.
And Austin kind of almost like half screwed him.
Yeah, but like even mediocrity.
Like Austin kind of screwed him.
Better than a really good player with that.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he signed that contract, he had to be a 95-point player every season, right? That's the expectation when you sign that contract.
Which right now, so far, he's looking like a 95-point player.
Yeah, is he on pace for like 97 and 82 game season? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, but I also I have not yelled at him in I don't know, probably 8 days. So that's pretty good. Hang up a sign.
He's been good for last month. That's why. He's been good for last month.
Yeah, we were talking before getting to the next part. Let's say the Olympic roster would have had to be decided by like January 25th, random arbitrary date. Do you think Marner would have been on that team?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. 100%. We had the debate, and I said I don't know.
Even though he wasn't playing well up to that point, he's too talented to leave off the roster. He's just too
absolutely. And he has performed of Canadiens within the World Cup and the Olympic Cup. He has performed incredibly. There was the one, I think it was the World Cup where he played, and he made David Severson look absolutely amazing. He's a defenseman. Like, there was that one play that it was just absolutely insane. I forget who Marner was playing with, but it was the top line. They played against Matthews that year, I believe. So there's no way this guy is getting with Chris. If Chris Kunitz made it on the Olympic team, Mitch Marner is going to make.
Well, that's and then we alluded to. What if Zach Hyman got put on that team and like you don't have Mitch Marner? You know, and then you say that you go, yeah, I guess he would have made it.
Yeah,
right. You can't. It just can't happen.
Yeah. So let's get into last night's game. I unfortunately, once again, I've been missing a lot of Leaf game recently, which saddens me. But as everyone else says, it's just the regular season. Who cares? So, what were your guys' thoughts on last night's loss to St. Louis?
It was good until it wasn't. Like, is that a good? That is Matt. That a good like sign? Like, it was good, and like we were competitive the whole time. We weren't dominating like at all, like most at all really, but it was good until it wasn't. And then it came 4-3. We started flipping it to the NBA All-Star game. So that should tell you all you need to know about that game.
Yeah, I mean, my main thought watching the game was what's going on with Jake Muzzin. He doesn't look right at all. I don't know if it's the wear and tear of the body because of the style he plays and how many playoff rounds he's been through, but something doesn't look right there, and it hasn't looked right for a while. And the other thing is the officiating in that game was
oh my God.
Like, it was just
I totally forgot.
The things they called were so ticky-tacky both ways, and then they let go things that were so blatantly obvious that I was just rolling my eyes like, what's happening?
On
like,
both sides.
At the end of the game, there was when we have the empty net. Tavares just massively hauled this guy down when he was about to put the puck in the empty net. You could have called it 3 different things and nothing. And I'm like, okay, like, what are we doing here? But no, it was a weirdly sloppy game, especially because
both teams.
Which is weird because I think both teams are actually pretty well structured defensively, but it was just very sloppy.
Yeah,
ways like we weren't great, but St. Louis wasn't great either. That was a very winnable game. It was just very sloppy, which is weird because I didn't expect a sloppy game.
And Steve Dangle called it a playoff style game. That's the least playoff style game I've ever watched. No, I don't.
So just to like back up your guys' point of saying it was a sloppy game from someone who didn't watch it, who just got to look at the stats and the highlights, the turnovers were 17-13, which is very high for an NHL game.
There you go.
And that's 17 by St. Louis turnovers. So just even just looking at that and a high shot game, it was sloppy. And as we've seen from Jack Campbell recently, it seems like he got his shit together a little bit more. Was this game out of hand because of Jack Campbell, or was it just the fact that the team didn't play well, or a combination of both?
If Jack Campbell played like 85% Jack Campbell, we win that game. And by 85%, I mean like beginning of the year Jack Campbell, not whatever. This is what Jack Campbell probably more is, or maybe a little bit higher than this. It's somewhere in the middle of probably what he is now and what he was.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the game against Pittsburgh was probably his best game in months. I mean, he was dominant. He won them that game. That game last night, it wasn't on him, but he certainly could have been better.
He looked out of place a lot.
He was fishing a lot, which is what he does when he's starting to lack confidence. He starts to sort of just wander a bit. And the rebound control was really bad last night. I thought he gave a lot of big rebounds.
So
I think especially in the first.
What you're trying to say is he plays like Peter Mrazek when he's not on his game, but he's not a Peter Mrazek that can get away with slipping and sliding
exactly.
around.
Yeah, because Mrazek, the two things he's really bad. Mrazek, the two things he's awful at when he's bad is that he's sliding around the net, fishing around, and the rebounds are just atrocious with Mrazek when he's bad. Atrocious.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's who it reminded me of. Yeah, Mrazek, basically.
Yeah, you don't. Campbell has that sometimes, but it was like all game he was out of net, dropping his stick. It was a lot. Like he didn't look confident, which is so weird because you just had that best game of the year on Thursday, right? Because I was saying, do you put Mrazek in net? And Matt's like, no, you put Campbell in net. He's similar to Mitch Marner. You have to ride his confidence, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say I was right. Put Mrazek in net. Hindsight is 2020. Mrazek would have had a shutout. Lock it in.
I just thought it was I thought my thought process was Campbell just had his best game. Like Andrew said, he's so like Marner in the sense that he's so reliant on confidence to play well, and it's such a mental thing with him. It's between the ears with him, I find that I felt like you had to go back to him, and for him to play like that, it's a little disconcerting because it's a little like, where's he at? Like, because it's just like he has his best game since probably November, and then he just follows it up with that, and you're like, where are we going now? Like, which direction is it going with Campbell? And it just feels so up and down with him that it's getting a little. I'm getting concerned by the lack of consistency for sure.
Would you expect him to play 3 good games in a row? Like 3 pretty good games in a row?
At this point, like, I don't know. Like, it's tough to say, right? I would hope, but like, I don't know where he's at right now. He's been so inconsistent really for the past 2 months, month and a half, maybe closer to that it's just difficult to know which Jack Campbell is going to show up. And it's very reminds me a lot of Marner early in the year when he was so lacking in confidence. He'd have one good game, but then he'd have 2 or 3 games in a row where you're just like, where's his head at? So,
yeah. Well, on the bright side, we can, if we want to compare, if he is, that's just who he is. He's a bit of an inconsistent goalie. At least we're not paying $11 million for Sergei Bobrovsky to be consistently.
One love, baby. Thank you, Kyle Dubas.
Very, very fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
Now, Isaac just says things to make you feel better about yourself that have nothing really to do with what we're talking about, but like it makes you feel better.
Yeah,
like I just smiled. It's really nice.
So who were you guys? Enough pessimism about the Leafs. Who were a couple of your top performers last night?
Nylander, other than him not understanding how a 2 many men penalty works.
Yeah.
That was fucking. That was bad. You could
tell how mad Keefe was at him. Like you could just see it under the mask. He was fuming at him. Like he was.
And it was also 5 feet in front of him. You know what I mean? Like you take a bad penalty and you're like 5 feet from your coach. Like good luck. You're getting like careful.
Look, you could argue that's a ticky-tacky too many men on the ice call, but at the same time, it's so blatantly obvious that he just had to not get on the ice there and not touch the puck that you're like, what are you doing? Like, and it's, but then he scored 2 goals. So it's like, that's what you want him to do.
He had the 2 many men one in between the 2 goals. You know what I mean?
That was sort of a perfect summation of Nylander, right? He's so talented. And then he'll do that one thing that sets off the people who hate him, and they emphasize it to death. Like, this is what he always does. No, this is what he occasionally does. The thing you think he always does, and gives you a reason to hate him when it's so minuscule compared to how much talent he has. So how explosive he is.
Which is why he doesn't make $10 million.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
He still has the brain farts, but they've been minimized, and he's become a lot more well-rounded player. So, like, it's just, I thought Nylander was really good. I thought, who else did I think was good? I think Riley's been great for the last year.
Yeah.
I think this is the best season Riley's had maybe in his career.
Brody looked good. Good. Both of them look. Both of them always look good. To be honest, I think they just always look good.
Brody is, in my opinion, arguably the most stable Leafs pure man-on-man defender they've had in a very long time. He's extremely underrated. Like somebody tweeted last night that they said like we don't talk about Brody, and that's how good he is, and that's the perfect summation of it. Is that you don't have to talk about a defenseman. Like that's sort of the ideal scenario, right?
Can I tell you? I thought about that too. You know what? One of the defensemen that like Jake Muzzin, some nights I don't notice him, and I don't think that's the same as Brody. You know what I mean? And I know Muzzin's supposed to be like a 40, 45 point guy who also is supposed to be tough, so I know it's different. But Muzzin's been that lately for me, but not in the way Brody is.
Yeah.
Right. I don't talk about him, but I think you should be talking about Muzzin. Like, I don't think that should be. We talk about him because we don't talk about him, right? Yeah. Brody's a little bit different. He's going to put up 25 points, whatever, 5 goals, 20 assists. But Muzzin, no, I don't know. How many years does he have in that contract? Is it 1 or 2?
I think it's 2 left. Yeah,
2. I think 2.
Yeah, but that the fact that you shouldn't really want to notice a good defensive defenseman will bring us to the trade that happened last night.
Blah, blah, blah.
Getting Labushkin from the Coyotes and
the Russian Bear, baby.
His advanced stats are just absolutely dominant in the defensive zone. He's been playing with Jacob Chikrin on Arizona, granted. And as downtown Stephen Brown, if people want to check out his video for a deeper dive analysis of the stats.
Oh, shout out to Brown, man. Fucking calling that one out.
Yeah, he makes the players around him who he's paired with their offense a little bit worse, but their defense a lot better. So him on a third pairing with Erasmus Sandeen looks like it's probably going to be the play.
He played better. He played better with non-Chikrin. He plays, I think I did the math. It's like he's played like 63% of his minutes without Chikrin, and he plays better without him. I imagine when he has to be put more into an offensive role, that something goes awry. Would that make sense?
I would guess it would probably be because
I'm guessing when
top competition.
Yeah,
so if he's in a more sheltered role, he'll be better.
Slash when
slower.
Yeah. Slash when you're playing with two creative player or whatever creative players he plays with on the other defensive pairings. I imagine the coach doesn't send them out there and goes like, go get a goal.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, even though Arizona's awful, obviously it's actually encouraging that he has been given the go ahead to play top pairing minutes against, top competition. Granted, he's playing with someone who's probably a lot better than he is in Jacob Chikrin. But if you give him, sheltered third pairing minutes with Sandeen, who's been awesome in that sheltered third pairing role this year, I think it's allowed him to gain a lot more confidence rather than having to play against top competition. That should, in theory, work really well.
So is that who you playing with? Third line with Sandeen then?
Yeah. Well,
is that your thought?
So the other thing too to take into consideration here, and Downtown and I on our podcast, which will be out just before this one, we're talking about what Bogosian was able to do when he was thrust into a top pairing role with Victor Hedman on the Tampa Bay Lightning's first cup run, in which I think Downtown brought up that like they let up no goals against in that entire cup run. And it seems that Bogosian is a guy who, as you just said, Matt, Labushkin will very rarely be better than his defensive pairing partner, but he can step up into big minutes and play with the Jacob Chikrin and do relatively well. So that opens the floor up. If there is an injury in the playoff to a guy like Jake Muzzin, a guy like TJ Brody, Morgan Riley, you can slot him up in the lineup, but ideally you would want him on a third pairing with Rasmus Sandeen and tell Rasmus, like, look, man, we got Ron Hainsey back here. Be Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the fact he, like I said before, the fact he at least has that experience, like you said, the fact he has that experience playing top pairing minutes is encouraging, because if worst comes to worst and injuries happen or you need to fill him in, at least he's done it. At least he's actually played against top competition.
Yeah, it's not Ben Hutton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even Bogosian. Like I know you're just talking about him playing with Victor Hedman, but that's Victor Hedman.
You're not just completely throwing him to the wolves, right? Where it's something that's completely new to him and completely foreign, where he's just like, I don't know how to play against good players, right? He's done it. So
the amount of confidence you must have to know you're pretty good and you played for Arizona. Yeah. You know what I mean? Walking in Toronto, like that's got to be big, right? Yeah. And I think it's different than being like thrusted on like Matthews and Marner's wing, because I think that's a lot of pressure. I don't think there's as much pressure playing with Rasmus Sandeen on third line minutes when you were just playing with Jacob Chikrin against top competition.
Yeah. So let's get into the entirety of the trade as a whole, because for those of you who don't know, I'm sure everyone who's watching this is a big enough Leaf fan. They're going to know that every detail of the trade. The Leafs send Nick Ritchie at a $2.5 million cap hit for this season and next season, as well as a potential a third round pick in next year's
2 years.
Draft,
yeah, like not this year's. Yeah,
they can choose a second round pick in 3 years' time, 2025, I believe. And that will obviously have to be decided on before next year's draft. For Ryan Dzingel at a $1.1 million cap hit, and Labushkin, I believe, at a 1.35, and they're both expiring at the end of the year. So the trade as a whole, I don't think there is one person in Leafs Nation. I don't care how.
I found it.
You've
people getting mad because if you if you make a mistake and then you fix it better, but you made the mistake in the first place, so did you really fix it? That's people's thoughts.
Yeah, people are going to the root of the problem, which is that they shouldn't have signed Rich.
Signed in the first place, which like Matt was saying before, he had 15 goals in 56 games. It's a 22 goal pace. Like,
wait. Yeah. See, firstly, you're ignoring the signings of Kasha, Comp.
Just dropping it.
Secondly, even if Ritchie wasn't part of this deal, you traded in either a third round pick or a second.
I thought that was good enough.
For a guy who could potentially play on a top pairing if you have injuries. And
would you have done it? How would you have done a third round pick next year for Labushkin and Dzingel? Because I would have. Yes. Right. So that alone.
Yes. I was telling Andrew this earlier. I said Ritchie scored 15 goals in 56 games playing on a very good team. So it wasn't like he was like giving first line minutes with Arizona and just randomly scored 15 goals because he was playing 22 minutes tonight. He earned good ice time on a good team and scored 15 goals. Big body, which what the Leafs needed. In theory, it made sense. Like maybe they overpaid him a little bit. In theory, he was the type of player that they needed. It didn't work out.
I saw a tweet that was like from before when we had just got Richie, Comp, Bunting, and Kasha, and it was like, who's going to be the best? Basically, who's best, second best, third best, fourth. But it was just like, who's going to be like breakout? Who's going to be a bust? This and that. And most people had Richie as that first or second. Most people had Bunting, Comp, kind of third or fourth, and most people had Kasha like first to third, which I think could not be more. I think all of that is the opposite.
Well, right. The way I viewed it is they were trying to replace Hyman almost in an aggregate sense, where they were trying to combine
Moneyball.
Richie. Yeah, you're replacing the aggregate, right? You replace him with 2 or 3 players. So in theory, my sense was they were trying to replace him with both Richie and Bunting, hoping that one of them would land. Maybe not to the same degree that Hyman was effective in, but to a more modest degree. And that's happened with Bunting, obviously. He hasn't completely replicated Hyman, in my opinion, but he's done a lot of the things that Hyman is good at. Winning puck battles, getting in corners, being able to play with Matthews and Marner, not looking out of place.
At all.
They tried that with Richie. It didn't work, but it worked with Bunting. So one of them worked, one of them didn't. You trade the guy who didn't work. Who cares? You've got Bunting on one of the best contracts in the league. Period.
Yeah. No, I think like if you had to go like money per point, then he'd have to be the best contract in the league.
In terms of value contracts, he's got to be in the top 10 in the league right now.
If he scores 30 goals, that's $30,000 a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
for a $10 million player to do that, they would need to score 300 goals.
And I think the other thing that when we take into account polls, surveys, even looking at comments and stuff like that, we often forget, because we're such big Leaf fans and NHL fans, that guys like Andre Kasha, very rare people actually know about his history and know what he can be in the NHL. How many people heard of David Comp? We're big Leaf fans. Did any of us really know too much about David Comp before he came here?
Or Labushkin? Nothing. I knew nothing. I think I knew
or Michael Bunting until it was rumored, right? So all of these guys, when people are making rankings at the start, everyone's heard of Nick Ritchie because
that's probably why it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Because the one that was supposed to be good, the one that was supposed to be known wasn't good.
Right. But
I feel like we only know Nick Ritchie because of the draft that year
exactly.
and taking Nylander instead of him, and how much talk there was from a certain demographic of fans that we should have been taking this guy because the type of player he was.
Oh, the Don.
I feel like thank you.
Certain demographic.
Yes, correct. But I mean, like, picking high in that draft or whatever, or he hadn't been going around where we were picking, I feel like we would be another, like, okay, it's just some guy, like,
Yeah.
And with Richie, I actually thought in theory the signing made sense. It didn't work. That happens, They hit a home run with Bunting, like a 450-foot bomb to center field with Bunting.
Yeah.
You just, you say, okay, you wash your hands with Richie, you make a good trade. Who cares that they signed him? They got good value from the trade. It was an amazing trade, like a modest trade, but an amazing one value-wise. So, like, I don't get that frustration.
And the funny thing too is the people who are likely saying that about Richie are the same people saying that thank God the Leafs signed Nick Ritchie.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So the person that did it, that I saw it, we got into an argument with him on the Leafs Twitter beforehand. But what I did is I looked up his name and then Richie signing. Of course, the one who was calling it out and said Dubas should have done it in the first place. I looked back and he said, he made a tweet like when he signed him saying great signing.
Yeah, of course.
So exactly. Right.
It just shows that Leaf fans can.
But I saw another tweet that was basically
no, there's no way.
Yeah, and it's the Bunting, Kasha, and Comp were lucky signings. But do you think Dubas gets lucky, or do you think he might just be good?
No, my favorite signing out of all of them was Andre Kasha, because I know what that guy could potentially do.
Yeah.
It was one of those things with like. Now, I know this didn't really work out, but Tyler Ennis, when we signed him, I love those signings of guys who have a history of injuries, guys who have had a couple or even one really good season, and you have a full season and you're not taking much of a risk. Because look what even they did with Nick Ritchie. Let's say they even held on to him. You could send him down and half of his contract would be gone. Granted, it's $1 million that you're still paying against the cap, which is super necessary right now. But you take chances on these guys because if they hit,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and
And
most
most
Bunting on a first
of
line.
these players, I think, don't mind being in the organization if it doesn't kind of pan out. Like if it doesn't pan out, I think, well, objectively, Richie is probably not super happy he's going to Arizona. But the fact that Dubas found him a new spot to land 2 days after he played, right? He didn't even play in the Marlies game last night. They pulled him. I think he played in one Marlies game, didn't he?
Yeah.
So and then he got
scored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he scored.
And the majority of the moves Dubas has made recently are so low risk and high reward that I don't get the frustration. If you look at all the signings of the offseason, Kasha, Kampf, Bunting, Richie, these are all low risk signings, high reward signings. And
$6.1 million for 4 players.
You essentially took the Hyman money and put it into 4 players. And in my opinion, 3 of them have performed very well.
Technically, it's less because if you look at the league minimum and making 4 people, technically, this is less money.
Yeah. And Richie didn't work, but you had 3 other guys that work. Mrazek hasn't worked yet. I'm not of the mindset that I'm completely giving up on Mrazek yet. But I mean, because he has a history of success. And I think the Richie one is the only one that I think you can say, okay, that just didn't work. And they made a good trade for him, and you wash your hands with it and you move on,
Yeah.
So, Richie almost signed in Arizona. Apparently, we outbid Arizona in the offseason. So if he took the calls in the first place, right, and that guy got more than 1 call, right, or more than 2 calls. So
now speaking of guys who might just be happy that they're just in the Leafs organization, now
Ryan Dzingel.
Hey, you stole my segue.
Sorry,
I'm the
buddy.
segue king here.
I'm faster than you on a segue.
So Ryan Dzingel hasn't had a good season. He had about 2 good seasons with Ottawa that led him to be part of that Columbus Dream Team randomly.
Oh yeah,
I forgot it.
I forgot. Oh what? Dude, that team was actually elite, man. That team was gross.
And they were playing Ryan Dzingel on the second line.
Terrible at the same time.
So the guy has a lot of speed. I remember watching it. And then didn't he go to the Islanders one year and play in the playoffs with them on a playoff run?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yes.
So he has potential.
Because Columbus signed him.
Right. Yeah. And he hasn't been very good in the playoffs. I know he was a real disappointment when they traded him to Columbus. He did not perform well, but he had 1 or 2 good seasons in Ottawa. So the guy has potential. He was sent down to the Marlies almost immediately. He hasn't cleared yet. What are your guys' thoughts on if he will be cleared, and do you really care?
Matt, you go, because I'm just going to say something rude.
I don't care. I don't think he's better than. I
would have gone first then.
No, I don't think he's. Look, the only argument is he better than Pierre Engvall? And I think the answer is no. So therefore, I don't care.
We're getting fans get mad over $400,000 and we have a chance to save more money and we're not snatching at it, right? I see so many tweets. Oh, he scored 22 goals 4 years ago. We just traded a guy that scored 15 goals last year.
Let's not do what he did 3 years ago, please. Let's not do that.
We literally just traded a guy that had a really good year last year. We had to go, sometimes success doesn't continue, and now we're looking at a guy who played well 4 years ago and trying to sign him, right? Who played well 4 years ago? Like Ron Hainsey. You want to go sign him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My only focus with this trade, my only happiness with this trade is they got a guy who, regardless of the quality that he's played, the level that he's played at, he has played against top competition all season this year. He's played with a very, very good defense all year, which means you can put him in theory in any situation and he's not going to be intimidated by the situation. At least he may not thrive, but he's not going to be intimidated, which to get that for Nick Ritchie by itself is a win. I don't care.
The third round pick for those two is a good trade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they turned Ritchie into an asset, and I saw other people talking too about Justin Holl must be an asset, right? Justin Holl must be a second round pick.
I mean, I truly believe that Justin Holl is an asset to a team who's looking to solidify a bottom pair. And I think none of us would be upset at Justin Holl if he was stuck in the third pairing in a sheltered role. It could be a somewhat similar thing to a Labushkin. A team could value him relatively the same, right? Because, and especially those games, you just need to set up get the Leafs brass to make a highlight reel of him versus McDavid. and just show them only that.
Yeah.
And he has value,
exactly.
right? I think we just hate on Justin Holl because he's playing with
he was really good last year. Like, he was really good for.
Yeah, and that's because Muzzin was playing very well last year. He's regressed. Yeah. So Justin Holl has regressed because what Justin Holl does that infuriates me the most, and probably you guys as well, is his situational awareness is pretty poor. So he will pinch when we're up. He will be the first guy to pinch, and he can't rely on Jake Muzzin anymore to be the fleet of foot defender that
is that his fault
used to be.
That he can't rely on Muzzin anymore.
Well, he needs to be he needs to be aware of who he's playing with a little bit more, and he needs to be aware that if you're up 3-2, don't pinch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think Isaac, what Isaac's saying is exactly right. He needs to have the awareness that Muzzin isn't what he was last year. He's just not. And that's a frustrating thing probably for both us and Holl and Muzzin. But like, I think Isaac's right that I think Holl is playing under the presumption that he's still playing with Jake Muzzin of last year, and he's not. And he's doing the same things he was doing last year. And because Muzzin is not the player he was last year, the things Holl's doing, he can't do this year. He just can't do because Muzzin's not going to be able to cover his ass for him when he makes a terrible pinch.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's literally it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's which sucks, right? Like that sucks for him. I think it sucks for him a lot, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, he thought he was in the clear. He gets to play with Jake Muzzin. This is great. I'll learn how to play this exact role. And then within basically 40 games, 30 games, it's like, no, you can't do that anymore. That doesn't work. And he goes, well, I'm not very good to begin with, right? Jake Muzzin can, we've talked about this a million times. Jake Muzzin, downtown talks about this all the time. Jake can pick either he was going to be an offensive player or a defensive player. I don't think Holl can do that. Right, Holl can't decide what he's going to be. Holl can just take whatever he's got and do the most with it, or fill in cracks. But if the cracks are really big, I don't think he can fill those.
The style he plays and the cup runs and the playoff runs, the miles on his body, even though he's only 32 or 33, that style of play, the age curve hits a lot harder, a lot sooner for those types of players. You saw it even with someone like Wayne Simmons. The age curve just hits earlier when you play that style. It just does. And I think that's what's happening. And unfortunately, I think this is where the decline is starting for Muzzin. I think he's still an effective player.
Yeah.
I just think, like we've been saying, he's not a good enough player that he can make Holl better anymore.
I just find it so crazy that at the end of the year, you had like the advanced analytics crowd. And I know Downtown talked about this when we had first had him on the podcast this year, and talking about like he's elite. Like he is better than most people give him credit for. He's a number 1 or number 2 defenseman. And within like 10 games, he's very much not.
Yeah, no, I think last year I viewed it as the Leafs had a really good top 3 in Riley, Brody, and Muzzin. And I just don't think Muzzin is anywhere near Riley and Brody's level anymore. He's just not. The Leafs have a very good top 2, and then they have 4 other guys, basically.
Yeah. I think Justin Holl, he gets traded all the time if Muzzin was playing well or a little bit better, even if Holl had those like bouts, I don't think we talk about training Holl as much, right? Because like people don't care. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I view Jake Muzzin as probably a 4 at this point of his career, and realistic, especially because the cap is going to go up. $5 million for a 4 is not terrible. Now it's not optimal. Right. But we have so much other great contracts on our team that you can look at and be like, this is great. So it kind of like it evens itself out a bit, which is why I'm not too upset about the contract. People are saying like, we're paying $5 million for a pylon. It's like, no, this guy is still a good hockey player. This guy still plays playoff style hockey.
But it's just that juxtaposition though, of like at the beginning of the year, we're thinking he's still an elite player and have to quickly realize he's nowhere close.
Yeah, and like he still the contributions he provides are things that the Leafs in general lack, right? The physicality, the experience, those things are things the team is lacking in. So even though it's maybe a more modest version of him, the things he excels at are still things the Leafs need because they don't have a lot of, right?
If you could trade Jake Muzzin right now for a 2nd round pick, would you? No, neither would I. I think that's what it comes down to is like as much as we give him shit, like we still think he's worth it, Right, and not because I think he's going to start turning back into old Jake Muzzin. I think he's going to stay old Jake Muzzin.
I think that there is. I think that he's going to get better.
Concern with.
Okay, you can think that.
I think that he's the type of player, even though he's gotten hurt in the playoffs the last couple seasons, is that his play style still lends itself to the playoffs, where there's more you can get away with in terms of physicality, in terms of clutching and grabbing a bit more. My only concern with Muzzin's decline is how many minutes a night are they going to have to play Riley and Brody in the playoffs? 30, probably, right? They're going to have to play him 30 minutes, both, because you don't have that number 3 guy that you can or number 4 guy that you can entirely trust now. And you're going to have to absolutely wear out Riley and Brody every night.
And if you can't play Muzzin as much, you can't play Holl as much.
Exactly.
Right?
That pushes us to the next point, which is, are we done in defensemen before the trade deadline, or is there another trade coming?
There's another trade coming, but I don't know what it is because we have 8 legit defensemen?
Yeah.
8? Yeah. So it has to be, right? Yeah, there's 8. Right, because
you can't play Holl in the top 4 in my mind. You can't play him in the top 4. So there has to be another trade.
Are we at all open to...
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. I know
here we go. All right.
Are we at all open?
I'm getting a drink.
To trading a guy like Dermott or Holl, probably Dermott, they would want more. And
would they?
Second or third.
Would they?
For Mark Giordano to play on a second pairing with Jake Muzzin.
That's an old pairing.
That's an old pairing, but
dude, 3 years ago? Oh my god. Jake Muzzin, Gio? No. So Matt, Isaac since the start of the season has said Mark Giordano. We will eventually, when we eventually get Giordano, we will find the clip, we will put the timestamp on it, and Isaac will blow up, and he will
take over Chris Johnson's shop,
become very famous, have his 10 minutes of fame. Then they'll find old tweets and cancel him immediately, but he will have his 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I actually thought you were leading to Ben Sherratt. I thought.
No.
Oh god.
No.
Okay.
Matt would have closed the computer. No, he would have thrown it.
No.
Okay.
Matt, you can put a Ben Sherratt jersey behind you, buddy.
Yeah. No. Giordano is an interesting proposition. I hadn't really considered that. I think with Dermott, you have to kind of accept the fact he is what he is at this point. I don't think there's another level for him to get to personally.
Nope.
So therefore, letting him go right now, I think is okay. I wouldn't have been good letting him go 2 years ago, because 2 years ago I would have said maybe there's more there. Now I just think he is what he is. I don't think there's more there, so I'm more open to letting him go, especially because with Sandeen and Liljegren, there's a little more upside to those guys, and I think Sandeen's already significantly better than Dermott. So I think you, like Andrew said, I think the idea of a Muzzin
Jesus,
speed wise is a little disconcerting.
Giordano still got speed, my friend.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
We believe you. I do know how many Kraken games you watch living in Vancouver now, man.
Okay.
It is on quite a bit. The guy still jumps in the rush. He still plays like old Gio. I don't know how, well, because the guy hasn't been in many playoff series because he played with the Flames for forever. So that's why he doesn't have too much wear and tear like Jake Muzzin, who played.
I think that would get Jake Muzzin going too. I think that would get Jake Muzzin going.
Yeah. I
wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Yeah. I mean,
so what is it? Travis Dermott at a second?
I'm completely okay with letting go of Dermott. Like I have no attachment to that guy.
Would you do Liljegren for Gio?
I honestly see the only reason I attached a second for it. No, I wouldn't do that. The only reason I attach a second to it is because you would have to either figure out a third team or have Seattle retain a little bit of something on Gio's contract. Because I think Dermott for Gio by itself would probably get the deal done because he's a UFA. There's no way he's signing with Seattle. Seattle's not making the playoffs. So he's just a rental. And I think that if they could get a guy like Dermott, you could, in the right way, view this guy as a little bit like Nate Schmidt. I've made this analogy before, how Nate Schmidt was playing on the Capitals in a sheltered role. And then as soon as he got to the Knights, they thrust him into a bigger role in an expansion franchise because they saw him as someone that could be a puck-moving defenseman when you already have John Carlson on the Capitals. So I think you could make a little bit of
I think it'll be the second as well.
But I'm saying the second for some retained salary because
don't
make 6.
Well, you have to. You'd have to anyways, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think as of now, we have, 1.3 at the deadline. If the deadline was this second, I think, basically.
Right. Now, does that not make, like, wouldn't Giordano by itself be down to about...
We're off by 200,000 and Brendan Pridham. We're off by 200,000. Brendan Pridham would figure it out.
Yeah. So that's just my thoughts as a guy like that. Now, I know that the cap thing is a bit of an issue, but that's why I'm down to throw in a draft pick for someone like that. And then who knows, maybe Giordano gets the Spezza treatment for the next couple of years in a sheltered role at $750,000 to play in his hometown. Just putting that out there.
No, see, Matt, I'm mad I told you.
No, but like I hadn't. He is from Toronto, right? That did escape me. So I mean, there is a Spezza obviously, I think, found new life playing here. He really enjoyed playing here, and maybe it's the same thing for Giordano. Maybe you could get a little bit of youthful exuberance of him, playing for the team he grew up cheering for. So it's not a bad idea in theory, and certainly I think Dermott is completely expendable at this point. Like because like he's, like I said, he's what, 26 now. Yeah, I don't think he's finding another gear. I think he is what he is, which is maybe a bottom pairing guy. And it's a very good team. He's probably maybe even a number 7, right? So I don't think you need him anymore. And I don't think now that he's not 22, 23 anymore, you can say, oh, there may be more there. There just isn't. I think he is. And I think therefore he's completely expendable. So if you have a chance to upgrade and move Holl out of the top 4, at least put in a guy he did win the North one year, right? A couple years ago.
Yeah, not 2 years ago.
Not too far off. So 2 years ago. You have a guy who's been an elite defenseman. Maybe he's not that anymore, but certainly, at least for one season, well into his 30s, was the best defenseman in the league. I think you certainly explore it at least. I mean,
but I still think we're giving Dermott the Bracco treatment. I don't think he's worth anything.
I do think that you could. I do think other teams view him as being worth something, because just like how we viewed Dermott throughout the last 3 years, it was like, there's something there. There's something there. What is it, man? Just do it. But he just never did. But I think other teams.
It's the way he skates. I think there's a very fluid nature to the way he skates, and I think it makes him seem like he's almost a more effective, efficient player than he is. Like, he actually moves very well, but he has no sense for the game.
He's never done anything impressive.
His IQ is just, to me, it's very low. I think he's very poor. He's very poor situational awareness. He doesn't seem to understand who he's playing with, or B, sort of the situation of the moment. And I think that we were talking about that with Holl, but I think it's way worse with Dermott. I don't think
he knows where he is.
Yeah, he's a frustrating player to watch, because I think you can see there's a lot of talent there, but I just don't think he has the proper sense, or at least the proper whatever it is. He's missing something to put it all together, and it makes him very frustrating. That's probably why 2-3 years ago we were like, oh, this guy could be really good. I remember the first few games he came up, it's like, oh, this guy, he skates well. He seems to be doing good. I think he scored in one of his first few games, maybe even his first game.
I think he's just as good as he was in his first game.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got any better.
You're right. He hasn't developed. I haven't seen a growth. I haven't seen him take a step. I've seen Sandeen take a huge step.
Liljegren's a great example of, like, when he's good, he's really good, and when he's bad, he's really bad. And you can tell those bad things are just going to kind of be ironed out, right? Like, it's going to happen, right? He's 21 years old, 22 years old. Those things most likely can get ironed out. That just never happened with Dermott.
See, and the difference between Sandeen and Dermott is Sandeen thinks the game so well for someone so young. Even a year or two ago, it's like, this guy understands everything about the game. He understands everything about his position. He understands who he's playing against. He understands who he's playing with. And his awareness of who's on the ice with him, against him, is just so mature for his age. And that's why I'm very encouraged by how much more there is for him to grow. But with Dermott, it just feels like Andrew's completely right. I just feel like he's the same player he was 3 years ago, which
Insane.
Is just bizarre. It's bizarre. And that's why he's expendable, because it's just, he is what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One final point about Mark Giordano is the guy has played since 2005, and he has played in 4 playoff series.
Wow.
That's
so perfect for the Leafs.
He's legit.
So who knows?
I think that's how many we played in. No, we played in what, 5? Yeah.
But no, if you look at it a certain way, it could make him a little more rejuvenated, getting
for sure.
Getting that last chance, almost coming back to the home team. It reminds me of the old school days when Leafs would bring in like Nieuwendyk and
Owen Nolan,
Jason Allison,
Beach, and these guys, and Ron Francis, and these guys sort of on their last legs, who had a chance to finally bring a Stanley Cup to a storied franchise, whether they were from here or not. The opportunity to win a Stanley Cup for a fan base that actually cares and has actually been deprived of something for so long, that's a valuable thing.
That's
right?
such a scam, eh? Because like the media is pretty shit here, and like it sucks to have to actually play here, but you got to come in with 30 games left when we're already in first place, basically. And then like if you don't win, you just go somewhere else. You go bye, and you don't ever really have to deal with the media, but you still get your chance, right? Because it's almost like a buy-in, right? You got to be like literally the most sacred players ever in this city, most sacred people in this city ever, and then but you have to be constantly bombarded by everyone, like just cyberbullying to the max. But if you win a cup, you never have to pay for a drink ever again.
If you win a series, you might never have.
If you win
No, but if you're a deadline acquisition, you're only playing for those like the month or two leading up to the playoffs, and then the playoffs, you're dealing with that on a far more modest scale. And I saw with Foligno, he looked really excited to be here. He looked really happy to be here, and he looked like he really relished the opportunity to actually win a championship in a city where people actually want to win one and actually have been deprived of one for so long. And if you get that with someone like Giordano, who's on top of those things, actually from here and presumably grew up a Leaf fan, I think
better too.
And I think you could have a situation similar to Spezza where it really just sort of rejuvenates him and gives him a little extra life.
Yeah. I think he'd drink the Kool-Aid a lot too.
Oh yeah, he'd love it here. He'd be like Foligno. He'd be wearing the old school Leaf hats. He'd be doing all that stuff.
And just to talk about Nick Foligno, if we're gonna get mad at Dubas for signing Nick Ritchie, thank God we didn't.
Oh my God!
So that would have been a mistake. It would have been like almost like we're trying to redeem ourselves for our sins from both sides. It would have been.
But Dubas doesn't do that, which is so nice.
Which is why he's good. Which is why people misunderstand him a lot of times. It's that he's not someone who's like. I know people like focus on the whole like, oh, he trades and drafts so many guys from the Sioux. It's like, but I don't think he's tied to that specifically. I think it's just because he has an awareness of them, right?
Yeah,
well, he understands.
It's not a coin flip, right? No, he knows what he's getting.
Yeah, you're just simply, you're trading for and drafting things better, which you should be.
Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, you're knowing.
Else you get into just drafting the 6'3", 230-pound guy who was third in goals in the OHL when he was drafted. That was a Nick Ritchie quote, by the way, from Don Cherry.
I've never been frustrated or annoyed by Dubas's allegiance to players from the Sioux because it's just he's using his pre-existing knowledge to his advantage. That's all.
Yeah,
and that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I've never been annoyed by Dubas before ever.
No,
and
Kadri.
That wasn't. Yeah, I mean,
at the time,
that's not. No. At the time, I thought it was stupid too.
At the time, I wasn't.
Quote me on our podcast from 3 years ago.
I just, I love the way that Barry. I'd seen him in one playoff series for the Avs, and I was like, man, I love this guy. And it was like, even if that, and I just knew that Kadri, like, who could have? I guess you could have.
Oh no, not the 100-point thing. That's not it, right? That's not Kadri.
I'll say this: Kerfoot is actually one of my favorite players on the Leafs. I think he's very smart. Yeah. I think he's very underrated. I think he skates very well. I think he thinks the game very well. Harvard education, baby. But no, I think he's a very smart player. I think he's very underrated. I see people saying, "Oh, we trade him. He's overpaid." First of all, he's not overpaid. Like
58-point pace. 58
he's making $3.5 million, and
he's making one more than Nick Ritchie.
And
we got freaking like who's it? Kevin Hayes on Philly making $7 million. Same with JVR.
People are still saying Kerfoot's overpaid.
He's paid what he's supposed to be paid.
Like, and you can play Kerfoot with good players because of how intelligent he is, right? That's why you can play with Tavares and Marner or Tavares and Nylander because he thinks the game really well. And even though he's not the most skilled, because he thinks the game well, he can play better than his talent would imply you to believe he can play it, the level he can play it, right? So I don't know. I've loved Kerfoot since he came here, actually, and especially now that he's having his best season as a Leaf, I like him even more. Yeah. That being said, the trade was still a disaster in my mind. I agree with Andrew because Barry was Barry was, even though he made so much sense in theory and he seemed to be a really good fit, he was just a disaster here. It was a train.
No, it was clear. It was good in theory because our D was so bad that anything looked good. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. It's almost like he wasn't even the type of defenseman they needed.
We needed
someone good, and
good,
he seemed like he was good.
We needed someone not terrible, and he fit that bill really well until he did.
But I'm not gonna do the whole Kadri thing when he's playing out of his mind this year and he's having a career year. Like it seems unfair to focus on that trade right now when Kadri's playing far and away the best hockey he's ever played. This is a one-off season. He's never going to have the season.
And if Kadri was a Leaf right now, think of all the tweets saying, but how are we going to afford it?
Oh my God, that would be a nightmare. Oh my God.
Every night, Darren Jagger would be like, this guy is asking for $11 million a year. I don't think, it'd be insane. It'd be nuts. And it's like,
oh, we're going to sign Sandeen and Campbell.
Yeah. Look, there is some stupid team that's going to pay Kadri $9 million a year, and Kadri's going to put up 55 points next year. That's what he's going to do, because that's what he is most years. He's a 55-point player, right? This is a one-off season. He's a very skilled player. He's a very good player. He's never having this season again, and he's playing out of his mind, probably in part because he knows how underpaid he's been for so long. And you know what? Good for him. He's because
he'll make what he should have made cumulative.
He's been a $6 to $6.5 million player for the last few years, playing at $4.5 million. So you know what? Good for him for cashing in. It's going to offset. He's going to, like Andrew said, he's going to end up making what he's worth in the end between the two contracts.
Yeah, he's also playing in division, which is absolute trash. So
yes,
I mean,
absolute trash.
Objectively, anything but the Atlantic sucks.
Yeah, and he's on a stacked team, right? So anybody,
fuck the Metro.
So let's close this thing out with just a few thoughts, predictions for tomorrow night's game against the Montreal Canadiens. So Matt, this is your first prediction, so we'll let you lead it off. Usually we pick a score that we never get right, and we also pick a bold prediction that we never get right, except for Ilya Mikheyev scoring. Nailed that one.
Yeah, so like maybe someone scoring, maybe someone sucking.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Mrazek's in net, probably.
Yeah.
Well, is Andrew Hammond playing in net again? Because he just won for them today. So I don't know.
I don't know. Is he? Yeah. You know what? Yeah. You know what? He is. I bet you he is. I bet you he is.
Probably is.
Yeah. I bet you he is.
He has what, like 10% of their wins now? Like just
he's got 2.2 so or 1.1.
So I say the Leafs win 5-2, and my bold prediction is TJ Brody scores for the second consecutive game.
All right. Okay. And
where's our stats guy finding out when was the last time Brody scored in 2 straight games? I think he scored 2 games ago too, or 3 games ago. Bold prediction: we lose 4-3 in overtime.
Nice.
Mrazek's in net. Bold prediction, which isn't that bold. Absolutely baffs one in overtime, and we have to do a podcast immediately post game and scream about him.
Yeah, and also just before we carry on, for everyone wondering, Labushkin, it's looking like he's going to join us in Columbus because of immigration papers or something, so he will not be in the lineup against Montreal tomorrow, so you won't get to see the Russian bear against the Russian sheep, Romanov. So my bold prediction is that Mrazek is going to let in 1 goal. I just can't say what I actually think Mrazek's going to get, but we're going to go with 1 goal.
All right, buddy.
So that's my bold prediction.
I don't know why you just come on this podcast and lie, but go right ahead.
And it is going to be 5-1.
Okay.
For the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't believe a word you say right now, but okay, man. Go right ahead.
It's going to be the one that I get right.
No chance.
So, yeah, Matt, come on anytime, brother. We'll do a post game for Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
So I won't be available for that one, but you two and Mark can do that one, and we'll post it up. And we'll make sure that do we have a question for the audience today? Audience, bold predictions on the Montreal Canadiens. And where do you think Labushkin is going to play a majority of his time? Who is his main defensive partner?
Yeah, let's do that one. Who's going to be his first defense partner?
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
All right. Peace, love, and road hockey. Cheers, boy.